The wind screamed across the dead land, carrying red dust that stung like fire. The sky was heavy, dark, and strange flashes of blue light cracked far above. No birds, no sound of life, only the slow, deep thud of something large moving in. The distance dot in the ruins of what had once been a village, a small figure crouched under a half-broken wall. Her skin was pale with a faint silver glow, and her eyes, wide and dark, reflected fear. She was no more than 8 years old in human years, but she was not human. She was a little alien girl, left behind by her own people. Her hands clutched a broken toy, the last thing she had from her family. It was cracked and covered in dust, but she held it like it was life itself. Every few minutes she would look around, listening for footsteps, the ones she feared most. They had left her here. She didn't understand why. She remembered screaming for her mother as ships took off into the storm, leaving the ground shaking under her feet. Then the monsters had come, tall, twisted creatures with claws like knives and teeth that glowed faintly in the dark. They hunted by sound. If she cried too loud, they would find her. She hadn't eaten in days. Her lips were dry, her voice weak. Yet somewhere deep inside, she still hoped someone, anyone, would come far away through the whirling red dust. Another figure moved, heavy armor, a breathing mask, and a long rifle slung over his back. He was human, a soldier, separated from his unit during a recon mission. His helmet's gums crackled with static, and he kept scanning the area for signs of life. At first he thought the sound he heard was just the wind, but then it came again, faint, broken, almost like a song. No, not a song, a cry. He froze. Out here, that could mean a trap. Raiders and alien predators sometimes used recorded sounds to lure soldiers in. But something in the sound made him hesitate. It was the way it cracked at the end, like a child's voice running out of strength. He switched on his visor's direction scanner. The sound was coming from the ruins ahead. The soldier tightened his grip on his sidearm and stepped forward slowly, scanning the shadows. His boots crunched on the cracked ground. The air was thick with dust, and every few seconds, the distant thud of movement shook the earth in the ruins. The alien girl heard the new sound, steady, heavy steps, but different from the monsters. She shrank back into her hiding place, holding her toy tighter. Her breath came in small, fast gasps. The soldier moved between broken walls, his eyes catching faint movement ahead. He knelt, slowly lifted his visor to get a clearer view, and saw her. She looked even smaller than he'd imagined, her big eyes watching him like he was both hope and danger at the same time. He lowered his weapon, one hand raised in peace. "It's okay," he said softly, even though he knew she wouldn't understand his words. She didn't move. Her hands shook, but she didn't run. Then the ground shook harder. A sound, deep and unnatural, rolled through the air like a growl, made of thunder. The soldier's training kicked in. He scanned the perimeter and spotted movement to the left. A shadow, then another. The girl's eyes widened, and she pressed herself against the wall, her small chest rising and falling fast. She knew that sound. The soldier stepped closer to her, his voice firm but gentle. "We need to move." He glanced back. At the open street, the dust swirling thicker now, a shape emerged from the fog-like dust, tall, hunched, its eyes glowing faintly yellow. Its claws scraped against the ground as it moved, and a trail of dark slime dripped from its mouth. The monster was twice his height, and its head tilted as it sniffed the air. The soldier raised his weapon and fired a short burst. The shots hit, But the creature only staggered. It let out a scream so sharp it made the girl cover her ears. "Run," he shouted, grabbing her arm gently but firmly. She stumbled forward, still clutching her toy. They darted through the ruins, weaving between broken walls, as the monster's heavy steps shook the ground behind them. The soldier's heart pounded, his visor flashing a warning, ammo low. The girl didn't speak, but she kept looking up at him, her eyes wide with something like trust. A loud crash behind them. The creature had smashed through a wall too. Keep up. The soldier knew they couldn't outrun it forever. They turned a corner, and his stomach dropped. Ahead was a dead end, a wall of collapsed stone and metal. The monster's shadow stretched long across the ground as it stepped into the open, blocking the only way out. The soldier placed himself between the girl and the beast, gripping his weapon tighter. The girl clung to his side, shaking, her silent tears mixing with the dust on her face. The monster growled, its breath hot and foul, and then the ground trembled again. But this time, it wasn't just the monster moving. There was something else, something bigger. The air was heavy, every breath like swallowing dust. The soldier's grip tightened on his rifle. His visor showed the monster's heat signature, bright, pulsing, alive. Behind him, the little alien girl clung to his arm, her small body trembling like a leaf in the wind. The beast's glowing eyes locked on them. It stepped forward, claws dragging against stone, making a sound that set his teeth on edge. Then another vibration, stronger dot from somewhere far behind the monster. Another roar answered. Not the same creature. This one was deeper, older. The soldier's mind raced. If there were two, staying here meant death. The monster in front suddenly lunged. The soldier fired 3 short bursts, aiming for the eyes. The creature staggered, its screams slicing the air. But it didn't fall. The girl let out a sharp sound, not a word, more like a frightened chirp, and grabbed his wrist, pointing toward a narrow crack in the rubble wall. "Move," he barked. Pushing her ahead, she slipped through easily. He followed, armor scraping against stone. The monster's claw swiped past his head, missing by inches. Inside, the space was dark and tight. His shoulder lamp flickered to life, revealing a narrow tunnel lined with broken pipes and rusted metal. The air was damp and smelled of rot. The girl moved quickly, almost on hands and knees, her glowing eyes adjusting to the dark. She turned once, making sure he was behind her. A crash shook the tunnel. The monster was trying to force its way in. Metal screeched, dust rained from above. "Keep moving," he urged. They crawled deeper until the tunnel opened into a larger chamber. Old storage crates lay scattered, most torn apart by time. He scanned quickly, no heat signatures, except theirs. For now, they were safe. The girl sat against a wall, breathing hard. She looked at him, her face dirty, streaked with tears, and said something in her own language. The words were soft, almost a whisper. He didn't understand, but her tone, it was like she was calling him something. Maybe a name, maybe hope. He crouched, offering her a small water pouch from his belt. She hesitated, then took it with both hands, drinking in quick, desperate gulps. A faint smile touched her lips for the first time. That's when his helmet crackled with static, and a voice cut through his commander. "Echo 3, report. You've gone dark for too long. What's your position?" The soldier hesitated, then tapped his cum. "Found a civilian, alien child, hostile territory." The reply was immediate, cold. "Leave it. She's not our mission. Return to rally point. He glanced at the girl. She was watching him with those huge eyes, still clutching her broken toy. The commander's voice came again, sharper. Do you copy, Echo 3? Leave her. The soldier's jaw tightened. Orders were clear. But walking away now, a sudden distant roar echoed through the tunnels, not from the monster they'd just escaped. This one was different. Closer. The girl flinched and moved nearer to him, her tiny hand gripping his armored glove. The soldier knew the choice he was about to make would change everything. He tapped his come again command. I copy, moving. Out. But his voice was flat, because in his mind he'd already made the decision. He wasn't leaving her. The soldier turned away from the coms, his jaw set. He switched his visor to silent mode. No more orders. No more distractions. Just survival. The little alien girl was still clutching his glove, her fingers cold and thin. She didn't speak his language, but the way she looked at him told him she understood one thing. He wasn't leaving. He checked his rifle. 4 rounds left. Not enough. He scanned the chamber. There was only one way forward. A low-maintenance tunnel, half collapsed. Stay close, he whispered, even though she wouldn't understand. They moved through the tunnel, the metal floor groaning under his boots. The air was damp and smelled of rust. Somewhere far behind, an echoing roar rolled through the dark, chasing them like a shadow. The girl walked just ahead of him, her small feet almost silent. She stopped once, turned to him, and pointed to a faint blue glow on the wall. It was some kind of alien marking, maybe a warning, maybe a guide. Do you know the way? He asked softly. She didn't answer with words, but her eyes said yes. They kept moving until the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Old machinery loomed like sleeping giants, their shapes half buried in dust and shadows. He activated his thermal scanner, nothing moving inside. Safe for now. The girl wandered to one of the machines and brushed dust off its side. A small compartment opened, revealing a single sealed food pack. She smiled faintly and brought it to him. He shook his head, pushing it back to her. You eat. She shook her head right back, breaking the seal and splitting it into 2 parts. She offered him 1/2. He took it. The taste was strange, bitter and sweet at once, but after hours of running, it was better than nothing. For a few quiet minutes, they sat there, sharing the food in the dim light. She reached out suddenly and touched the side of his helmet, her fingers tracing the scratches in the metal. Then she spoke a single word, slow and careful. It sounded like fire. He frowned. What does that mean? She repeated it, tapping her chest, then touching his arm. He guessed, family. Her eyes lit up, and she nodded before he could say anything. A deep metallic clang echoed from somewhere above. His visor flashed a motion warning. Multiple heat signatures, moving fast. Drones. Hostile, they were searching the tunnels. And if they found him with her, there would be no chance to explain. The soldier stood quickly, pulling her behind a thick piece of machinery. The worry sound of drone rotors grew louder, followed by beams of red light sweeping across the chamber. One beam passed so close he felt its heat on his armor. The girl buried her face against his side, shaking. He drew his sidearm, only 3 shots left. If they spotted them, they wouldn't survive a fight. The drones hovered, scanning. One stopped, turning toward their hiding spot. The soldier's finger tightened on the trigger. and then a loud roar shook the chamber. Not drones, not machinery, the monster from before had found them again. Asterisk, the roar echoed through the chamber like rolling thunder, shaking dust from the ceiling. The drones froze mid-air, their scanners flickering, confused by the sudden noise. From the shadows beyond the machines, two glowing yellow eyes appeared. Then a hulking shape stepped into the light, the same monster they had escaped earlier. Its claws scraped against the floor, and a thick line of saliva dripped from its jaws. The soldier's heartbeat pounded in his ears. Between the drones and the monster, there was no safe way out. One drone turned its beam toward the beast. The monster roared again and lunged, swiping through the air with enough force to crush metal. The drone's frame crumpled with a loud crunch. The others reacted instantly, firing bursts of bright plasma at the creature. The air lit up in flashes of blue and white. The soldier saw his chance. Now, he whispered, pulling the alien girl along. They darted between the chaos, weaving past falling debris and sparks. The girl's grip on his glove was like steel, small but unbreakable. A plasma shot exploded against the wall near them, showering them with hot fragments. The soldier's armor took most of it, but he gritted his teeth against the heat. They reached an old stairwell leading upward, but the steps were half collapsed. He boosted the girl first, pushing her until she could grab a higher ledge. She scrambled up, her bare feet quick and sure. Then the stairwell shook violently. The monster had slammed into the base, trying to follow. The soldier's boots slipped on loose rubble, but he pulled himself up just in time to see one of the drones break free from the fight and turn toward them. Red scanning light washed over him. His visor blared a warning. Target locked. Without thinking, he yanked a smoke grenade from his belt, pulled the pin, and tossed it down the stairs. Thick, choking smoke filled the space, blinding the drone's sensors. They reached the top of the stairs and stumbled into another corridor, narrower, darker, lined with collapsed doors. The smell of burned metal hung in the air. The girl looked up at him, whispering something in her language. He didn't understand, but her tone was scared, urgent. He checked the map on his visor. Nothing useful. This part of the ruins wasn't even in the recon data. Behind them, the roars and gunfire began to fade, but he knew it wouldn't last. The monster would come again, and the drones wouldn't stop searching. They walked until the corridor ended in a sealed bulkhead door. The soldier tried the manual release. Jammed. He stepped back, raising his rifle to shoot the lock, when the girl tugged his arm. She knelt, feeling along the floor until her fingers found a hidden latch. With a quiet click, a small side hatch swung open, revealing a narrow crawl space. She glanced at him, her big eyes saying without words, "This way." He crouched low and followed her inside. The tunnel was even tighter than before, forcing him to move on his elbows. The walls were damp, and somewhere above, water dripped steadily. They crawled for several minutes until the tunnel opened into a small chamber lit by a faint blue glow. Strange alien symbols covered the walls. Pulsing softly, the girl moved to the center and placed her broken toy on a flat stone. The symbols brightened at once, filling the chamber with soft light. The soldier stared, realizing this wasn't just a hiding spot. It was something else, something important to her people. Before he could ask, the ground shook again, not from footsteps, but from something deeper, older, waking below them. The shaking grew stronger, dust falling in thin streams from the ceiling. The soldier tightened his grip on his rifle, scanning the chamber. The blue light from the alien symbols pulsed faster now, almost like a heartbeat. The little alien girl stood beside her broken toy, her eyes fixed on the glowing walls. She whispered words in her language, soft but steady, like a prayer. A deep rumble echoed from the tunnel behind them. The soldier's visor picked up a massive heat signature, moving toward them. And it wasn't alone. Smaller shapes followed fast, erratic. He knew the sound. The monster had found them again, and this time it had brought more. The girl turned to him, her face pale with fear, but she didn't cry. She simply stepped. Behind him, the first clawed hand burst through the tunnel opening, scattering chunks of stone. The soldier opened fire, the sound deafening in the small space. The monster shrieked, pulling back, but another slammed into the opening right after. He switched to his last grenade and tossed it. The blast rocked the chamber, filling it with smoke and fire. For a moment, he thought it might be enough. But then, through the smoke, 2 more creatures pushed in. The soldier stepped forward, placing himself between them and the girl. His ammo counter blinked red, 2 rounds left. He knew what that meant. He braced his stance, aiming at the closest. "Monster, come on," he muttered. The creatures roared and charged. Then a flash of white light tore through the tunnel. The monsters screamed, their bodies convulsing before collapsing in the dust. The soldier blinked against the brightness. Shapes emerged from the tunnel. Human soldiers in full combat gear. His squad, Echo 3, a familiar voice shouted, "We tracked your signal, thought you were gone." Relief washed over him, but it didn't last. The squad leaders. Visor turned toward the girl. "She's not part of the mission," the leader said flatly. "We can't take her." The soldier stepped between them, his voice firm. "She's coming with us." The leader's tone hardened. "That's not a request." The chamber was silent, except for the faint hum of the glowing walls. The squad watched, waiting. Finally, the leader sighed, lowering his weapon. "Fine, but she's your responsibility." The soldier turned to the girl and offered his hand. She looked at it, then at him, and placed her small fingers in his dot. As they walked out of the chamber, she whispered the same word she'd said before Faya. "Family." The soldier didn't reply, but his grip tightened. He had saved her life, and he had a feeling she might one day return the favor, not just to him, but to all of humanity. Outside, the storm still raged, but this time he wasn't walking through it alone.